Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Madhav Radha Madhav Radha Madhav Jaya Ashta Sakhi Jaya Nrsingadev Nrsingadev Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Panchatattva Jaya Panchatattva Jai Jai Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jai Jai Gurudev Jaya Jaya Gurudev Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Jai Shri Radha Madhava Ashtaki Srimad Mahaprabhu ki Shri Nrsingadev Bhagavān Anantadev Prahlad Maharaj ki Shri Shri Panchatattva ki Srila Prabhupada ki ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। मुखाकरोति वाचालं पङ्गोरं गायते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदिनतारिणं परमानन्दं श्रीचैतन्यैश्वरं नमः विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते जयपताकस्वामिति नामिने नमाचार्यपादाय निताय कृपप्रदायिने गौरकथादामदाय नगरग्रामतारिणे नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादेशतारिणे जयो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। रीडिंग फ्रॉम श्रीमद् भागवतम टेक्स्ट 9। यथा गुणंस्तु प्रकृतेर् युगापात् क्रमशोऽपि वा bibharti bhūriśva ekaḥ kurvan karmāṇi janmabhiḥ. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is one, whether he is alone, acts with the modes of material nature, or simultaneously expands in many forms or expands consecutively to direct the modes of nature. Text 10. I'm guessing it's on the board. Vicikitsitam etan me bravītu bhagavān yathā śābde brahmaṇi niṣṇātaḥ parasmiṁś bhavān khalu vicikitsitam etan me bravītu bhagavān yathā śābde brahmaṇi niṣṇātaḥ parasmiṁś bhavān khalu vicikitsitam etan me bravītu bhagavān yathā śābde brahmaṇi niṣṇātaḥ parasmiṁś bhavān khalu vicikitsitam etan me parasmiṁś bhagavān khalu. brahmaṇi niṣṇātaḥ parasmiṁś bhagavān khalu. Vaishnavis. Vicikitsitam etan me bhagavān yathā brahmaṇi niṣṇātaḥ parasmiṁś bhagavān khalu. Vicikitsitam etan me bhavītu bhagavān yathā niṣṇātaḥ parasmiṁś vicikitsitam bhagavān yathā śābde brahmaṇi niṣṇātaḥ Word by word translation, if you like to repeat. Vicikitsitam. That? Doubtful inquiry. Etat. This. Me. Of me. Bravītu. Just clear up. Bhagavān. Powerful like the Lord. Yathā. As much as. śābde. Sound transcendental. brahmaṇi. Vedic literature. niṣṇātaḥ. Fully realized. parasmiṁś. In transcendence. Cha. Also. bhavān. Your good self. khalu. As a matter of fact. Translation. Kindly clear up all these doubtful inquiries, because you are not only vastly learned in the Vedic literatures and self-realized in transcendence, but are also a great devotee of the Lord, and are therefore as good as the personality of Godhead. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. In the Brahma Samhita, it is said that the Supreme Absolute Truth, Govinda, the personality of Godhead, although one without a second, is infallibly expanded by innumerable forms, non-different from one another, and although he is the original person, he is still ever young with permanent youthful energy. He is very difficult to know simply by learning the transcendental science of the Vedas, but he is very easily realized by his pure devotees. The expansions of different forms of the Lord, as from Krishna to Baladev to Sankarshan, from Sankarshan to Vasudeva, from Vasudeva to Aniruddha, from Aniruddha to Pradyumna, and then again to second Sankarshan, and from him to the Narayana Purushāvataras and innumerable other forms, which are compared to the constant flowing of the uncountable waves of a river, are all one and the same. They are like lamps of equal power which kindle from one lamp to another. That is the transcendental potency of the Lord. The Vedas say that he is so complete that even though the whole complete identity emanates from him, he still remains the same whole complete. Same complete whole. Purnasya purnamadaya purnameva vasishyate. As such, there is no validity in a material conception of the Lord produced by the mental speculator. Thus, he remains always a mystery for the mundane scholar, even if he is vastly learned in the Vedic literatures. Vedeshu durlabham adurlabham atma bhakto. Therefore, the Lord is beyond the limit of conception for mundane learned scholars, philosophers, or scientists. He is easily understandable for the pure devotee, because the Lord declares in the Bhagavad Gita 18:54 that after surpassing the stage of knowledge, when one is able to be engaged in the devotional service of the Lord, then only can one know the true nature of the Lord. One cannot have any clear conception of the Lord or his holy name, form, attributes, pastimes, etc., unless one is engaged in his transcendental loving service. The statement of the Bhagavad Gita that one must first of all surrender unto the Lord, being freed from all engagements, means that one must become a pure, unconditional devotee of the Lord. Only then can one know him by the strength of devotional service. Maharaj Parikshit admitted in the previous verse that the Lord is inconceivable even for the greatest learned scholars. Why then should he again request Shukadeva Goswami to clarify his insufficient knowledge about the Lord? The reason is clear. Not only was Shukadeva Goswami vastly learned in the Vedic literatures, but he was also a great self-realized soul and a powerful devotee of the Lord. A powerful devotee of the Lord is, by the grace of the Lord, more than the Lord himself. The personality of Godhead, Sri Ramachandra, attempted to bridge the Indian Ocean to reach the island of Lanka. But Sri Hanumanji, the unalloyed devotee of the personality of Godhead, could cross the ocean simply by jumping over it. The Lord is so merciful upon his pure devotee that he presents his beloved devotee as more powerful than himself. The Lord expressed himself to be unable to save Durvasa Muni, although the Muni was so powerful that he could reach the Lord directly under the material conditions. But Durvasa Muni was saved by Maharaja Ambarish, a devotee of the Lord. Therefore, not only is a devotee of the Lord more powerful than the Lord, but also worship of the devotee is considered more effective than direct worship of the Lord. Mad bhakta pujabhyadika. The conclusion is, therefore, that a serious devotee must first approach a spiritual master, who not only is well versed in the Vedic literatures, but is also a great devotee to factual realization of the Lord and his different energies. Without the help of such a devotee spiritual master, one cannot make progress in the transcendental science of the Lord. And a bona fide spiritual master like Shukadeva Goswami does not speak about the Lord only in the matter of his internal potencies, but also explains how he associates with his external potencies. The Lord's pastimes in the internal potency are displayed in his activities in Vrindavan, but his external potency works are directed in his features of Karnarnavashai Vishnu, Garbhodakashai Vishnu, and Kshirodakashai Vishnu. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti offers his good counsel to the interested Vaishnavas when he says that they should not be interested in hearing only about the Lord's activities, like Rasa Leela, but must be keenly interested in his pastimes, in his features of the Purushavataras in connection with the Shrishti Tattva, creational functions, following the examples of Maharaj Parikshit, the ideal disciple, and Shukadeva Goswami, the ideal spiritual master. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki, Shukadeva Goswami ki, Parikshit Maharaj ki, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki. Parikshit Maharaj exemplifies a disciple, a devotee, and how he's approaching Shukadeva Goswami in a truly submissive and in the mood of eagerness and openness. In order to receive transcendental knowledge, sometimes the mind gets in the way. In the mode of rajas, passion, and in the mode of tamas, the mind says, I know so much better than the other devotees. I've been chanting for so many years. I've been studying so many scriptures. I know more verses than so many devotees around me. I got it together. I know how to figure this out. Once, there was a factory owner. He had this huge machinery. It broke down one day. That was his only source of income. And nobody knew how to fix that machine in his factory. Neither did he. He was running that place for a really long time, and he knew how to make money, he knew how to run that machine, but when it broke down, he had no clue how to fix it. So he called the technician. The technician came, took a quick look, he pulled out his bag, he took a screw, he took a little nut, went in a specific place, fixed that nut, and gave the bill to the owner. It was $1,000. So the owner said, excuse me, sir, I just saw you take out a screw and a nut and you just put it there, and how is it going to be $1,000? Is the nut cost $1,000? He said, no, the nut is just $1. The knowledge and my qualification to know exactly where to put that nut in the right time cost $999. So, what's the moral of this story? That is the great devotee. That is Guru, who knows the Lord much more than our mind can conceive of, or our experiences of visiting holy places or reading the Vedic scriptures or chanting mantras on our own strength. And sometimes the mind might say, well, they're not pure enough. But the point of today's verse is much deeper and much beyond that understanding of how the Lord, this whole achintya bheda tattva can be seen here in 2 points here. One is how the Lord manifests in so many innumerable forms, different forms, and therefore he's empowering his devotees. He's appearing as his empowered devotees as well. And here in this verse we see that Parikshit Maharaj is addressing Shukadeva Goswami as what? Bhagavān. I mean, that's a big deal. To address the devotee of the Lord as Bhagavān by Parikshit Maharaj. It proves a bigger point here. And what is the point? Whether it was Ambarish Maharaj, who easily forgave Durvasa Muni, whether it was Prithu Maharaj, who forgave Indra, or whether it was Hanuman, who crossed over the ocean, or whether it was Draupadi, who could easily forgive Ashwatthama, or we can see the example of Haridas Thakur in the recent times, who could forgive his perpetrators, or we can even see great examples of great devotees like, who are not even in our Vaishnava Sampradaya, like Jesus, who could forgive and request forgiveness to the Lord to people who were torturing him. Regardless of the examples, we can go on and on about these devotees who prove this point, that they are more merciful than the Lord. They are equally pure, equally empowered, equally merciful as the Lord. And another instance of when Hanuman, when he was asked to prove, really Lord Ram is in your heart, he literally tore open his chest. And what did the people see? They saw Lord Ram in his heart. So how does all this thing come to take place? There is one verse. Before I say that verse, I'd like to apologize and thank my father who is watching the class. He used to chastise me as a teenager that I would waste time listening to some karmi music. And he would tell me, go and listen to Madhvacharya songs, go and listen to our Vaishnava Acharya's verses and songs and do something useful and meaningful out of your life. And this morning when I was preparing for the class, these verses came to my mind and I was thinking how upset and angry I was with my father. So I just want to thank him and apologize for my rebellious tendencies. So I'm grateful that he was that devotee who gave me this culture of hanging on to our acharyas, hanging on to the words of scriptures and hanging on to the beautiful praises and glories of the Lord through the devotees who know him better than any scholar, any scientist, any yogi, any saint. So, Madhvacharya beautifully puts in his shloka, in his recitation of a poetry, where he connects that point. Vande vandyam sadanandam vasudevam niranjanam indirapatimartyadi varadesha varapradam vande vande. So I offer my respectful obeisances to son of Vasudeva, and who is the consort of Sri Lakshmi, who is defectless, and he empowers his devotees to give greatest boons as himself, or even greater. And he gives that boons to demigods like Brahma, Shiva, who are known to be great givers of boon and also great givers of bhakti. So the great devotees of the Lord, their purity is such that they are considered as good as the Lord himself, as Srila Prabhupada is mentioning here in this purport. That's why in the Shastra it is declared that by the Lord himself that he is more pleased when we are serving his devotees. He's more pleased when we cooperate amongst devotees. And so did Srila Prabhupada say, you will please me by the way you cooperate amongst each other. So he's more pleased when people worship his devotees. And that is the beautiful concept of Vaishnava sampradaya. And the element of greatness is in the heart of every devotee, to a smaller or greater degree. So I'd like to take a look at that perspective today as well. And in the purport, there's a mention of the innumerable forms of the Lord. Simhavamana Shri Madhusudhana Vrajendra Nandana Shama Putana Ghatana Kaitabasatana Jaya Dasharati Rama. So many beautiful incarnations of the Lord who comes again and again and again. Yada yada hi dharmasya. He comes again and again to re-establish dharma, to give us that mercy, to wake us up. Jeev jago, wake up. Love me because I love you. So this is a mystery to the mundane scholars, because the mercy or the purpose of the Lord cannot be understood by just studying Vedic scriptures on our own strength or with any other material qualification. And the opposite holds true as well, that without the mercy of the Lord, everything is such a disconnected game. Many years ago, I heard this story, and this gave me such a conviction. I mean, this is a story. It's a joke, actually. It really proves this point about how important it is to have that connection of the devotee in order to touch the Lord, in order to understand the Lord, in order to even glorify the Lord, in order to connect to the Lord in an authentic way. Okay. This is... The phone rings, the technician picks up the phone. This is Mayapur Computer Agency, may I help you? And the customer says, yes, I'm having trouble with my Microsoft Word, it's not working. Well, what sort of a trouble is it, sir? Well, I was typing along and all of a sudden the words went away. Went away? What do you mean? Well, they just disappeared. And what does your screen look like right now? Nothing. Nothing? Yeah, it's blank. It won't accept anything I'm typing in here. Sir, are you still on the Word document or did you get out of it? How do I tell? Can you see the C prompt on the screen right now? What's a C prompt? Never mind. Can you move your cursor around the screen just to check if the machine is... There isn't any cursor. I told you it won't accept anything I type. Does your monitor have a power indicator, sir? What's a monitor? It's the thing with the screen on it that looks like a TV. Does it have a little light that tells you when it's on? I think so. Great. So follow the cord to the plug and tell me if it's plugged in. Yes, it is. So when you were behind the monitor, did you notice that there are two cables? Are both of them plugged into the machine? I don't know. I want you to look back again, okay? Follow it for me and tell me if both these wires are plugged into the machine. I can't reach, sir. Madam, whatever. So maybe you can kneel down and make sure that those two plugs up. It's very important. You need to check if it's on. Oh, no, it's not the angle. You see, the room is dark, so I cannot see the plug. I can't see the wires. Why not? Oh, because there is a power outage, and the only light I have is from the window. Oh, sir, I get it. Power outage. Oh, I get it. Sir, do you have the box that you purchased this computer along with? Oh, yeah, I keep everything very safely in my closet. I have all the papers in the box. So please pack the computer back in the box and bring it to the store. Oh, is it that bad? Yes, I'm afraid. What should I tell the storekeeper? Just tell them that you're darn stupid to use a computer. Okay, this can become the situation of the mind which tells us, I don't need devotee, I don't need the guru, I don't need to consult, I don't need to do things according to other people. That's the modern disease, to jump over the shelter that we have, jump over the guru, sadhu, and shastra and try to figure things out. And what is our qualification? We don't even have an electricity connection. So that connection is the mercy of the devotee. That connection is the mercy of the guru. So I I tell my mind often this every time my mind jumps up and down saying, I got this together. This time I'm going to sort it out and it's going to be different. No, you have to stay connected to the electricity if you want anything to get done. So the Lord is easily understandable on the basis of unflinching bhakti. There's a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam where Prahlad Maharaj, he speaks about how no amount of wealth, this is the 7th canto 9.9, he says no amount of wealth, no aristocratic family, no beauty, no austerity, no education, no sensory expertise, lustre, influence, physical strength, diligence, intelligence, mystic yogic power. I think this is Prahlad saying, but I think that even by all these qualifications, one cannot satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. However, one can satisfy the Lord simply by devotional service. Gajendra did this, and thus the Lord was satisfied with him. And here, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is speaking about how not only taking interest in Rasa Leela, but also becoming interested in understanding the creational functions of how the Lord runs the universe. And in this context, I want to give an analogy of, it can be compared to sex. So children don't know what it is. They don't think about it. They don't talk about it. But at puberty, they get interested about it. And then as teenagers, they're very interested. They talk a lot about it, but they don't have any experience about it. But as adults, married people who have children, they know about it, they have experience about it, but they don't talk about it. Similarly, our acharyas, although they know in depth, in full connection, the intimate pastimes of the Lord, such as Rasa Leela, they have knowledge of it, they do not speak about this in a cheap manner. And this is an example that we need to follow, that we shouldn't be attracted to the mundane sphere or concepts and try to connect mundane experiences to what it means to understand the conjugal pastimes of the Supreme Lord. So in that context as well, how the Supreme Lord empowers his devotees. This is another verse from Madhvacharya. Vipramukhai sada vedavadonmukai supratapaikshati shaikshvaraishchitam apratar karyusam vidgunam nirmalam saprakashajara nandano pamparam prinayamo vasudevam devata mandala khandamandanam prinayamo vasudevam. I'm going to put it in my own words, the translation of this in context of this purport that we read. Ambarish Maharaj, Durvasa and Ambarish Maharaj, the example Prabhupada gives here. Hanuman crossing over this ocean. These are very incomprehensible things. How the Lord empowers these devotees to do this so that he can glorify them. And in this second line, it's described how the incomprehensibility of the Lord is actually the greatest, let's say, greatest quality that is seen in the devotees as well. And that uniqueness cannot be compared with any other quality. It is said that he glorifies his own devotees, he empowers his devotees with all his qualities. And I mean, this verse glorifies Krishna's so many qualities, such as he's never touched by material modes, he's never suffering, and similarly also the devotion of the devotees is never touched by material modes. And it says that we cannot understand that happiness that is existing between the Lord and his devotee, because the happiness that we experience in this material world is just like a glowworm in front of a sunshine, and so we cannot compare that happiness with the spiritual happiness of what it is to have a relationship with the Lord as a very pure devotee. So it says, don't compare your experience of happiness with what that happiness means. So the point is, until and unless we submit ourselves, surrender, let Krishna take over, hand it over to Krishna, let him ride the chariot, let him lead us, we cannot realize his greatness. And it's not by our strength or it's not by my purity or my austerity, but it's only through the electricity. It's only the mercy of the Lord. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as well, we've heard in Chaitanya Charitamrita how he repeatedly would hear the pastimes of Dhruva Maharaj and Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj and Prahlad Maharaj, repeatedly. He wasn't actually reading again and again the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And this proves many points, but one of the points is that going over the basics of Bhakti Yoga, going over the essential elements of what it means to surrender to the Lord, what it means to stay connected to the Lord, what it means to become an instrument in the hands of the Lord. That's something we can learn. And also that sincerity and the innocence of 5-year-old Dhruva, 5-year-old Prahlad, and how they were able to achieve and conquer the Lord, that they were so empowered to execute their purpose. And in this context, Hanumanji, that Srila Prabhupada is bringing up in this purport, once Hanuman saw Mother Sita wearing her sindoor, and he got very curious. So he went to Mother Sita, sat at her lotus feet, and asked her, Mother Sita, what are you doing? Meanwhile, in the assembly of Ayodhya, there is Lord Ramachandra, the jewel of the Yadu dynasty, sitting on his throne, and there are so many ministers, and the whole kingdom is filled with very, very qualified saints and sages and advisors, and the courtroom is filled with the military army as well, and Ramachandra is making certain important decisions. And coming back to Hanuman, Sita Devi thinks, how can I answer this question to Hanuman? He's a brahmachari. What is he going to understand about conjugal rasas and dynamics of what sindoor means? He's a brahmachari. So she simplifies her answer and tells him, my dear Hanuma, when I wear this sindoor, Lord Ram is very pleased. The next minute, there is this really weird red painted monkey in the assembly of Lord Ram, completely painted with red sindoor all over his body, and all the soldiers get really afraid and they take their weapons and they're going to arrest Hanuman, and everybody comes near and Lord Ram says, wait, that looks like my Hanuman there. Wait a minute, Hanuman, what's happening? Can you explain this, please? And who are we speaking about? Buddhirbalam yashodhairyam nirbhayatvam arogatam ajhadyam vakpatatvam cha Hanuman smaranat bhavet. Just by remembrance of this personality called Hanuman, by just even listening, the Vedic scriptures declare that one is going to get so many qualities like that. One is going to get intelligence, one is going to get courage, one is going to get physical strength, mental strength, emotional strength, spiritual strength. And that Hanuman, with his innocent bhakti, stands in front of Lord Ram and says, Mother Sita just told me that you are very pleased with the line that she draws over her forehead, so I thought I wanted to please you. And here I am, my Lord. Are you pleased? And even today we can actually see Hanuman. They paint him with the sindoor all over his body, and there's worship of Hanuman. So this is the quality that the Lord most appreciates, that sense of eagerness and purity and innocence of the sole purpose. Krishna, may your will and not mine be done. May my actions be pleasing to you. May I act according to your will. May I do your bidding. So it is not so much about the game of Vedic knowledge. It's not so much about the game of achievements. It's not so much about who I become. It's just about becoming that precious child of Krishna, to connect with that childlike nature within us. So that is what means a pure devotee. It is not it is not a complicated process. It's very simple, but not easy. Okay, so Prabhupada glorifies the great strength of devotees, and the last 2 paragraphs here in the conclusion is speaking about the seriousness with which we must approach Bhakti Yoga by surrendering to the lotus feet of spiritual masters, such as spiritual master who represents Shukadeva Goswami. Otherwise it is very difficult to make any progress. And both external and internal potencies of the Lord are equally important for us to hear. And we must be careful to not just veer away to simply the pastimes of the Lord in Vrindavan, because the risk and the tendency is to become sahajiya and sentimental, and that will be an obstacle to develop our sincere devotional practice. So Shukadeva Goswami is an ideal speaker, and he gave importance to both these potencies of the Lord, and his perfect disciple Parikshit Maharaj submissively and humbly has given us example how to follow this path. And those are some of the points. Thank you very much for your attention. I'm going to end here, and if you have any questions or comments, now is the time. Yes, Hare Krishna, can we have the microphone?
Thank you, dear Sri Radha Govinda ji, for giving us such a beautiful class about the sweetness of bhakti that you brought out beautifully in so many examples. This innocence that Hanuman is displaying, though such a powerful warrior king, monkey king, and the innocence with which he stands before Lord Ram, we are all encouraged to become like that, simple, childlike, innocent. But we are so complicated in Kali Yuga. Even I think, now that you are speaking of it, Lord Jesus says, be like unto the children, and then you can come to me. So how we can get past this complicated nature that we have in Kali Yuga, where we make even simple things very complicated?
Yeah, good question. What I remember is what my Guru Maharaj often says, that we should cry that we are not able to do that. And if we're not able to cry that we can't go to the Lord with that innocence, we can cry that we cannot cry. So, and goes on and on and on in that way, until we come to that point of realization that the only way to solve all the problems in life is to surrender it to the Lord. That's the only way. There's no other solutions. And another thing that comes to my mind when you say that is, we can't do that on our own strength. It's again, we just depend on the Lord, just like a baby depends on the mother. And we can even, my mentor, she often says, don't even think of yourself as a child in the lap of the mother. Think of yourself as a child in the womb. Like to accept the fact, I'm that powerless, I'm that helpless, I'm so dependent on the Lord, just as a child who hasn't even taken birth, who's in the womb, is dependent on the mother. So the mercy of the Lord is like that mother, and I'm the baby in the womb. And so that comes when we go through very painful situations in life, when we are put in situations that we are completely, utterly helpless. And Krishna is like asking, so you give up now? Do you accept you're powerless? But usually the human tendency is to think, no, this time around I'll try something slightly different and then I'll get it, Maybe I just call another customer care service and maybe they'll fix my problem, right? So there's a tendency to want to handle it. And the point of Hanuman is this, that he doesn't overthink things. Right? He just does what he's inspired to do to serve the Lord. So if we are complicated, we just say, Krishna, I am so complicated, I'm offering my complications to you. Instead of saying, Krishna, I don't want this complication, because that's another complication. So I guess acceptance of our complications, acceptance that I am full of character defects, and Krishna doesn't have a problem with that. I have a problem with that. He accepts me exactly as I am. And he accepts everybody as they are. So I guess those three things. Cry like a child. Imagine ourselves to be in the womb of the mother and be dependent on the mercy of the Lord in that way. And that's why Kunti Devi said, when they were asked, Krishna asks the benediction, what do you want? When he visits them in the forest. And Kunti Devi says, give us poverty. And then there's a whole Purandaradasa song about it. ಬಟ್ಟೆ ದೊರೆಯದಂತೆ ಮಾಡು, ಬಟ್ಟೆ ದೊರೆತರೆ ಇಂಬು ದೊರೆಯದಂತೆ ಮಾಡು, ಇಂಬು ದೊರೆತರೆ ರಂಗ ನಿನ್ನ ಇಂಬಿಟ್ಟು ಸಲಹೋ. So the whole thing about Kunti, that's an elaboration that she said, if we are in utter poverty, we're going to suffer. We won't have food to eat, we won't have clothes to wear, and we will be in such distress, we'll call out to you. And when we call out to you, you will come. And when you come, that is the shelter I want. I don't want any other shelter. I don't want anything else. So her mood is that realization that the only time I can depend on the Lord is when I have no other shelter. So please put me in circumstances where I have no shelter. So I guess that's sometimes Krishna's way of telling us that I'm here. Why are you looking for substitutes?
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Prabhu.
Mataji, thank you for the class. You mentioned a very important point about being connected to the electricity. Like we have to be connected to the parampara. So during preaching or any activity we do, the tendency is like we use our intelligence. Instead of then we use our intelligence, and based on our intelligence we are doing the preaching work, intelligence or sentiments or whatever it is. But the point is like we are using our things. We are not connected to that electricity, as you call it. So can you mention like how to avoid this tendency of depending on our assets? Instead of that, we depend on the Lord and His, like being connected to that electricity. So can you explain?
Are you sure that it's your strength, or are you sure you're using your mind? Are you sure it's not the Lord?
Mataji, like what we can say, like we use, like suppose someone who has lot of knowledge of
this is a very simple question. Are you sure or not? Yes or no? It's a yes or no answer.
So
no.
No.
You're not sure. Thank you. Thank you for your honesty. And that's the truth. The point is, at that time, when we are in front of a person who is a seeker, what comes out of our mouth? Yes, it may be based on our experience. Yes, it may be based on our limitations. But the truth is, we are, the whole karta dilemma from the Bhagavad Gita. Are you the doer or are you not the doer? Are you the one distributing the books or you're not the one? Are you the one preaching or you're not? So you see, it's not a very black and white thing. There are shades. Now, from something that I have learned and something that helps me is we look for the absence of these four things. If there is resentment, fear, selfishness, or dishonesty, then it's not Krishna's will. In the absence of all four, when we are, that means there is electricity. Okay, when there is electricity, definitely, even if we make mistakes, like today I was just thinking of that, right? I don't know if it was electricity or no electricity, but I still can't say this word properly. Vicikitsitam, right? I said vicikitsitam, right? But it's not that. The point is, we will make mistakes. We are full of defects, we will have that mistake. But the point is, the Lord has some lesson for me to learn of being humble, that I made a mistake. You understand what I'm saying? So the point is, the mistake is not the problem if we can learn from it. But as long as these four things are not there, it's not that we have to be perfect, it's not about the result, it's about our heart. If there is no resentment, if I'm not doing it out of fear, I'm not being dishonest when I'm preaching, according to my experience, this is what it is. If we are honest and we don't have any ulterior motive, we are not selfish, our only purpose is to give Krishna to them, then we are an instrument. We are an instrument and the Lord is working through us. We need that faith, otherwise we can't go out on book distribution. We can't go and give Krishna consciousness to others. We need to feel the electricity as well. We need to connect as well. We need to switch on that button, and that's the button of faith. Okay, does it make sense?
Mataji, then won't that lead to mental speculation? Like mental speculation, these four aspects which I have said, that can be done with mental speculation also? Or is
How?
it like we are speculating something about Krishna, but that is not the actual thing which is there? Then our acharyas will only say, no, so how do we connect with the acharyas? Then we are using our intelligence, no?
See, I don't know what example you're specifically thinking, but my point is an internal process. The internal process, the best we can do is to pray to Krishna every morning before every endeavor. Krishna, may your will and not mine be done. Okay? Then how Krishna uses us is none of our business. We can't control every single thought, that's what Mataji was saying, we get complicated, right? The point is, Krishna allowed me to give the class that he allowed me to give. There is nothing else to do. So we are only able to do what he lets us do. We will be only able to do what he lets us do. So if he lets us, or we have go through the experience of mentally speculating and going through the suffering, that's Krishna's, it's in his hands. So the point is something a little more basic about our intention. Do you want Krishna? Then let him inside. Don't let him wait at the door. But do you want mental speculation? So it's a choice we need to make, and it's a practice. If we are accustomed to exaggerating things and saying, it's going to take a while to let Krishna in. But just be kind to yourself and be kind to others too. We are all conditioned. So we are going through the process. But the point is to ask Krishna, may your will be done. That is the intention that can cure all these diseases such as mental speculation. Okay? Is that okay? Yes. I'm sorry?
Does somebody else have a question?
Yeah, I saw two more. But
when Krishna left Vrindavan for Mathura, he promised that he'd be coming back after finishing his work there. He promised the Kura that he'd be coming to his house later. He promised Kubja that he'd come back to see her. Did he return to any of those people, if not, why not?
I mean, this can be a whole class, as you can imagine. But one of the most philosophical answers that I've received in these kind of questions, why does Krishna do this, why doesn't Krishna do, the why question, the best answer I've received so far is why not? Because again, our minds won't be able to understand it. That's kind of what is my consolation. But there are so many explanations about these promises and what was the meaning and etc. I wouldn't be able to answer all of that with this short time, but maybe I can send you an email with some of the references if you like. Thank you. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you for your wonderful class. Mataji, we know that as a practicing devotee, we struggle a lot to overcome the anartha nivriti, like kam, krodh, lobh, mat, moh, matsarya. And after that we reach the stage of niṣṇātaḥ. So my question is that when we'll understand that we have come at the stage of niṣṇātaḥ? Can you please explain that?
We must check with the electricity. We cannot figure it out. And there is no need of figuring it out. The point is that we are engaged in service, and according to our readiness, Krishna will give us next. And a person in the level of niṣṭha doesn't need validation or approval or acceptance from somebody or anybody that, oh Prabhu, you have reached it, well done. It's not like a golden medal.
So what is the
because
meaning
you'll
of that?
experience it. There is a
Mataji,
whole
what is the meaning of
description.
that? What is the meaning of niṣṭha? Can you please explain a little? Niṣṭha.
Prabhu, there's a lot of that you can find. If you like, I can send you links about, there are beautiful articles about it. I can send you. The point I'm saying is the levels of advancement doesn't need approval or announcements. It is a state of mind, it's a state of being that you will experience. Basically, it's a place where you won't be affected by mundane things.
Thank you.
But yeah, I can send you links about that. Yes, Ajaswini Mataji.
Hare Krishna, thank you for the class, wonderful. You started the explanation of the sloka by mentioning about forgiveness, this quality, and nowadays I think is a lot of lack of forgiveness. When somebody does any mistake, is thousands of people jumping to condemn this devotee. So could you say something about how to develop this forgiveness nature, or just avoid the judgmental mentality so we can advance or something? Please, Krishna.
Thank you. Yeah, so how can we develop that mentality of a pure devotee? Actually, when you are in niṣṭā, you won't have problem forgiving. That's a sign. We can see if it's easy for us to forgive. We are fixed up. Yes, very good point. According to this verse and according to these principles of devotional qualities and verses, we seek forgiveness for our mistakes, but we want justice for other people's mistakes. Right? That's a human tendency to want other people made a mistake, there should be justice. I make a mistake, there should be forgiveness. There's generally that tendency, and as long as that tendency is there, there is struggle. What we can, or what I can do, is to look at my own personal relationships, which are near and dear. They are devotees. It's sometimes harder because we end up offending devotees more than we would offend some karmis, because we have higher expectations. We want them to come up to the standard, come up to the level, right? Just as we saw, Prabhupada gives the example of how Draupadi was a devotee, therefore she could forgive even Ashwatthama, who killed all her 5 sons. Or Kunti, right? She went through so many austerities and she kept quiet all those years. Why? Because she had that faith in the Lord. And what we can see from this text and verse is this, what we can personally apply. We need to work on our side of the street, to keep my side of the street clean, to look at my anarthas. Usually when something goes around that triggers, it's because I haven't forgiven myself. And so we are unable to forgive others. So that's usually a psychological dynamic as well. And as Prabhupada is saying, Krishna has these innumerable incarnations and he's empowering achintya beda, beda tattva, simultaneously one and different. Sukadeva Goswami is as good as the Lord. So that principle of Krishna, the way he is empowering, as I said, all of us have our own level of devotion which is to some extent pure. Right? But we expect that our family, start with our husband or wife or children or parents, we expect they are devotees. Why are they not A, B and C? Why they are not whatever it is that we expect them to be? More pure, more honest, more kind, more selfless, more pure, whatever it is that we expect. We get triggered, right? We get triggered as long as we are triggerable. So, my one-line answer is, look within. When these kind of situations happen, when we are upset with somebody or when we are disappointed with somebody. Recently, one of my students asked me this question like, Mataji, I understand that I am not this body and I am spirit soul and I feel really good about it, but how do I see my parents as that? How do I see them as spirit soul? Because they annoy me, they irritate me. I can see myself as spirit soul, but it's hard to see them as spirit soul. So that I started thinking about it and I thought, usually we see the conditioning of the person, we are not seeing the person. And those conditionings are happening due to our own trauma, due to our own issues. And so we usually project things. So most of the time when there is a chaos, we are not looking at what is my lesson. We are not looking at what is Krishna's hand in this situation, what Krishna wants me to learn. Because Krishna can teach us through anybody. Even a failed marriage he can teach us. A guru who falls down, he can teach us. Because the point is, as long as the connection is there, you have received the benefit. Now we cannot just throw the baby with the bathwater, right? But the usual tendency is to want to do that, because the mind wants to reject also the good. But the truth is, as long as the electricity is there, we have received the benefit. Therefore, the forgiveness comes as they say, not forgiving is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Because who is getting the harm? It's me. If I don't forgive, I'm carrying the burdens. In Kannada we say, Mardor papa ardor bayalli. It means, it is a scriptural fact that, how does it go? There was a way of saying this. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says this, right? When we speak about the character defects of others, we are essentially attracting that character defect within ourselves. So, do we want that? So, forgiveness does good to us more than to the other person. And we don't want the character defect of that person. But unaware, we are doing these things. We are criticizing people, we are blaming them, we are exaggerating things to make ourselves feel good, to make ourselves feel not so bad. Somebody did something bad, and it's easy to make them look so bad so I don't feel myself so bad. Right? So forgiveness is doing good to myself. So my answer would be, let's look at our side of the road, let us look within. Let's keep our side of the street clean. Be clear of our intentions of, why am I talking about this person? Is there really something beneficial for me in this? Because Bhagavatam says, the word swartha means selfish, but there is a way of being in swartha means selfish in sattvagun, rajagun and tamogun. Being selfish in the mode of tamogun doesn't help others, doesn't help us. It's a destruction, it's a chaos. Being selfish in the mode of rajas temporarily gives us a sense of enjoyment, but we may hurt others, and in the end, due to the karma of hurting others, we also end up miserable. So criticizing is like that. Selfishness in the mode of passion. For a moment, I feel good talking about something interesting, but then it's going to come back at me. But swartha in the mode of sattvaguna, selfish, is not putting my mind into things that's going to attract negative energy. To keep myself as comfortable as possible to perform devotional service. That is selfishness. Because sometimes you say, but how can I keep quiet? Because sometimes we need to be a little selfish. Think of, really, is this going to benefit me? So forgiveness is not some kind of a great deed and great favor we are doing to others. Essentially, it's a deed we are doing to ourselves. And having faith gives us the ability to forgive. That Krishna has got a plan. Is that okay? Thank you very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.